I think anybody can make perfect bread. You just have to make sure that you follow the recipe. Be very mindful of all of the techniques that are listed in the recipe, and you'll have success. It smells better than the smell of fresh baked bread coming straight out of the oven. A lot of people don't make it, I think, because they're sort of intimidated by the whole yeast idea. There's different types of yeast. There's fresh yeast, which this is, which is sort of crumbly. It comes in a cake. 1 ounce of fresh yeast is sort of equivalent to granulated yeast. And besides granulated yeast, this is something that you don't need to reconstitute in liquid. This is called instant yeast, and this is instant blending. This gets mixed into flour right away, and it doesn't need to be proofed. Now, proofing is what happens when you add regular granulated yeast, which is this. Notice how it's quite a bit bigger than the small instant yeast here. When this one gets added to warm milk, which I'm doing for the white bread here, sprinkle it on top and let it proof. This is called proofing because the yeast buds sort of wake up. They sort of, you know, it's dried, it's sort of like it's sleeping, so you're waking it up now. You're adding your granulated yeast, and this is what it looks like when it's finished. White, unbleached flour. This is going to be a simple white loaf. I think that a lot of people really like, you know, plain old white bread. There's nothing wrong with it. Nice big dab of butter on it. Maybe some jam, maybe some honey. And to that, the proofed yeast with the milk and sugar. Sugar is going to add a little bit of a sweetness, and of course butter has to go into, that adds sort of a keeping quality to the bread. And this starts to mix with a paddle. Once it comes together, I'll switch to a dough hook. Now, bread takes a while to make. This is probably why a lot of people don't make it, because it is time consuming. But now that it's come together, I switch to a dough hook. And a dough hook actually sort of mimics the movement of a human hand moving the bread on the table. Now, you can't do all of your bread work on a machine. You have to actually touch the bread. It's sort of like, I don't know, call it a child. It sort of needs to be felt. There's nothing like the feeling of soft, warm, you know, bread's sort of like, it's a living thing. It's got yeast in it. Once this has already been kneaded until it's smooth, it's put into a bowl and it's proofed with a wet cloth over top. Once it's proofed for the second time, this yeast is moving around, it's distributing itself through the flour, it looks like this. Now, to redistribute the yeast again, once it's come to a proofed stage like this is time where you get to kind of take out your aggression on your bread. So you punch it down.
And that's why you don't get on the bad side of a chef.
Right, exactly. You get to show your power here.
Yeah.
Now, once this is already punched down, you sort of keep your shape here, and this is going to be your loaf of bread. Now, God's gift to bakers is baking spray. Spray your tin generously, and then start to make a loaf. Just fold it in and sort of roll it. Now, this bread's only going to be raised for 2 risings. It's raised once in the bowl, and it's going to rise one more time in the pan before it goes into the oven. How are those onions doing there, Claudia?
Doing great. You think this come together?
Sure, turn that one off. Okay, so this one's going to proof, and when this one's proofed and risen, it's going to go into the oven, because this is your proofed loaf. Now this is the smell of fresh bread. Pissaladière. Pissaladière starts off, it's a French sort of, I don't want to call it a dinner item. You can have it as a snack or a lunch with an omelet maybe. Fried onions with thyme, bay leaf, olive oil or butter, salt and pepper. The onions sort of melt.
So what are we going to top this with, Chef?
Well, usually it goes with anchovies and Niçoise olives. The French really like their olives and their anchovies, and
that's great.
It goes right into a pan. Yep, stretched into a pan so it reaches the edges. And this is what the onions look like once they're already fixed.
Sure.
And these go right on top. And then Claudia's going to help me arrange the anchovies and the olives right on top. Oh yeah, sure. We'll take out the bay leaves. You don't really want to be crunching on bay leaves.
And I'll start on this corner, making
Sure.
a crisscross.
There's usually a crisscross design. It's a traditional design for a pissaladière with the olives and the anchovies. And this has to go proofing again. So once this is all finished, it gets proofed, and this is what it's going to look like. Beautiful risen dough. It's come to the edge of the pan, and it goes into the oven to bake and come out really golden brown. Oh, I can't wait to taste this one. Pissaladière and a big glass of red wine. I think that's a perfect dinner. What do you think of that? Now, what are we doing next? Some brioche and some sweet stuff next.
Yeah.
Right? Good.
Lots of butter on the brioche.
Awesome. Dough is very versatile. It doesn't just have to be a loaf of bread. It could be rolls, it could be bread twists, it could be bread sticks. And it doesn't even have to be sweet bread dough. It can just be regular bread dough, and you can make it into cinnamon rolls if you really want to. It's a multifaceted ingredient. Flour in the pot. Now, for the yeast and the milk and the sugar. Brioche is one of my favorite breads ever. The only liquid that really goes into it that makes much of a difference is eggs, and of course, butter. And butter is what makes brioche special. Brioche is one of the most special French breads out there. Eggs, butter, it's rich, it's crusty on the outside, it usually has a shiny top, and it's just beautiful, served warm with butter, jam, a cup of coffee, and you've got the perfect French breakfast. Now I'm gonna let this one go. And once it's already mixed together, this is basically what that's going to look like. Notice how the dough is very yellow, and that's from the eggs that have been added to the dough. Most breads would have water or milk added. In brioche, you use eggs as your primary source of liquid. And then comes the butter. Now this is the way to make bread. Lots and lots of butter. Almost a half a pound in here. And piece by piece it has to go in, because if it goes in too quickly, it's just going to start spinning around and it's not going to be able to hold in the mixer. I started with a paddle just to sort of get the bread mixed together, but now that it's mixed together, I've switched to a dough hook, and that's what's incorporating the butter. Turn it up a little bit. Now, you might think that there's a lot of butter in here. Don't worry about it. You only live once. All right. So this is going to continue to mix. Claudia, will you come over and babysit this one for me?
Yes, chef.
Okay. And once this one has gone into an oiled bowl and it's been covered, it goes into the refrigerator. And when it comes out of the refrigerator, it looks like this. Now, of course, this is a cold dough, so all of the butter has become firm. And once again, I get to take out my aggressions and punch it. And I'm redistributing the air, and I'm redistributing the yeast, and it comes out of the bowl, and it goes into these little tins. So I'll cut it into little pieces. I usually cut my bread dough with a knife because you want to keep the gluten strands cut. You don't want to break them or rip them. And then to make the little balls of dough, start with equal sized pieces right in front of you and sort of push away from you and pull and push and pull. And you'll get nice round balls. These go right into the molds. And then usually there's a little ball that goes on top. So I'll put my finger in here just to kind of give an indentation, put the ball on top, and this one's ready to proof with a cloth over top. Put these two together. Two little hats. My hands don't need any hand creep, I think, because I've got enough butter on here from these bread rolls here. Put Put a little hole in here, put the top hat on. So once these are proofed, they come out looking like this. This one's a little overproofed, but the rest of them are just fine, and they go into the oven until they're golden brown. Oop, hold on. Before, you always have to egg wash brioche. That's like the magic step that I almost missed there. This gives it a beautiful dark brown shine. Egg wash always really makes things shiny. And you can put it on if you're making a dough, like a loaf pan too, right?
Right.
So this one's kind of crooked.
So that's just egg and milk or egg and water?
It's pure egg. Sometimes you can use egg yolk if you really want to have, if you want to have a really, really, really dark, shiny crust, then you use just egg yolk. This is actually egg wash, so this is just egg. And it goes right into the oven.
I can get that door for you, Chef.
Thanks. And there it goes. That's where the magic happens. That's going to come out golden brown. Ready for a cup of coffee?
I was going to say, you want me to get the
maybe
coffee
some butter
going?
on top,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
That'll be pretty good.
What kind of jam do you like?
Oh, raspberry.
Okay.
It's pretty impossible to over-knead dough by hand, but if you're mixing it in a machine, you can over-knead it. So take it out before it's almost done, and make sure that you get your hands in there, because the dough really likes the warmth of your hands. And you know what? It really feels good. It's kind of like a healing process to knead the bread. Remember that brioche dough? Now it's going to be turned into cinnamon rolls. And nothing feels quite as nice rolling out with a big rolling pin as brioche dough that's nice and soft, and it's becoming beautiful cinnamon rolls. A big load of butter, yes, more butter, don't be afraid. Cinnamon rolls really need to have an extra bit of gooiness in the pan when they come out warm. Right, Claudia?
Yes, Chef.
Feels like butter. Living in New York, I realized how to say butter. And this is it, man. This is butter right here. So all the way to the edges. And then brown sugar and cinnamon, of course, for a cinnamon roll. Oh, yeah. Check this out. Bottom, I flip it over and just pinch it, just to make sure that these don't open up when they're baking. Roll it back over, sort of even it out a little bit, and then slice them into about maybe 2-inch widths. And how's that dough going?
It's good.
You're just going to roll that out and cut that into strips, or
into squares.
into squares?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, there's a cafe in New Orleans that sells those, and they're just awesome. They call them beignets. They serve them with a really, really hot cup of coffee, and they're absolutely doused in icing sugar.
I was thinking they'd be pretty good with chocolate too.
Oh yeah, you just have to make sure you don't wear black when you're eating them. Okay, so the cinnamon rolls go into a buttered pan, and thoroughly buttered. Yeah, I know, more butter. It's pastries, come on, I mean, this is
The whole fun of it.
This is exactly the whole fun of it. So these just go right in here. And then these are going to proof. And Anne-Marie actually has some that she's going to bring over for me that are already proofed. And I'll swap with you. These ones can get proofed. Thank you. And here's some that are already proofed. Oh, aren't those beautiful? Okay, and these just go right into the oven. And they'll be baked and crunchy on the top and brown and perfect to go with my morning latte. To go with my espresso, I think I'll probably have a beignet. Now, how's that going? Excellent.
Do you want to take over, Chef, while
Yeah,
I
sure.
empty the next one?
Sure. So I'm just going to cut these into small squares. Let me just start one strip at a time here. And these go straight from being cut straight into the oil. They don't have to be perfect. This is sort of like a rustic, I don't want to call it a dessert, but it's rustic, you know? Okay, so once those are cut, one more strip. Okay, and now these can go right into the oil. I'm just going to carry them right over like this. And the oil temperature is about 350 degrees. These look fantastic. Not all donuts have holes in the middle. I mean, a donut could be any shape. It's all about a piece of dough fried, and it's got sweet stuff on top of it. There's nothing better than a donut and a cup of coffee. White bread dough is not limited to just plain white bread. This is just regular white bread dough that's been punched down, proofed first, of course, and it's going to be turned into some beautiful olive breadsticks. First, I roll it out. And it doesn't get rolled out too thick and not too thin either. You actually have a choice to make them crispy or chewy, however you like your bread dough. And Anne-Marie's going to help me here put together some. Okay, let me get this really flat here. Okay, so how about we put some olives here, and we'll just spread them in the middle. And what we're going to do is just fold over, just need it on one side here. So this gets folded over, thank you, and flipped. Don't worry about your fingerprints with olives on them, that's okay. These things, I mean, this is just something quick to do. This is hardly something that's a lot of detail is needed. I'm just going to take the end piece off and not pay too much attention to it. And once I get into nice strips, I'll cut them about, you know, 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters. So, or accompany your dinner. How's that going? You're going to twist into it? I don't know if those are look the same. Bread makes you feel good. Take a bite out of it, it's crispy on the outside, slather it with butter when it's still warm. You take that bite, and it's like, God, this feels good. It tastes good. I don't know if I should be eating that butter, but bread's good. Bread rocks. The versatility of bread dough. Brioche, breadsticks, cinnamon buns with brioche, and of course the famous hot white bread out of the oven that everybody should smell once in their life, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's really hot, but there's nothing like hot white bread out of the oven. Fresh white bread, yum! Oh yeah, check that out. Are you guys ready or what?
Oh.
I love the heel. So what have you got going on there?
I'm going to dump the cinnamon buns. Ready?
Check that out. Bread. Saladier, cinnamon buns, brioche, breadsticks. Oh, donuts. How can I forget donuts? How about a coffee? And a cheers to a donut.
To a donut.
To bread. Here, what am I cheering? With my donut or my bread? All right. Okay. That was a great day in the kitchen, you guys.
Oh yeah.
We did a lot, right?